You have to bring value, whatever that value is that the client is looking for. I think, you have to find it.
Welcome to Channel Security Secrets. I'm Lou Raban. On this show, we expose the untold secrets and critical insights from the people shaping the future of cybersecurity sales in the Trusted Advisor channel. If you're looking to up your game around selling security, stick around. Channel Security Secrets is brought to you by Cyber Defense Group, on a mission to shift cybersecurity from reactive to resilient. Hi, everyone. I'm really inspired to chat with our guest today. He's a seasoned global CISO, keynote speaker, and United States Air Force veteran. With 25 years of experience in technology and over a decade in cybersecurity leadership, he's helped organizations navigate complex security challenges on a global scale. Previously, he worked for the U.S. Air Force and NATO in Germany, Italy, and England, and the Department of Defense in Europe. A sought after speaker discussing the future of cyber at events like the Apex Assembly and the Cyber Risk Los Angeles Leadership Exchange. Today, he leads the development and execution of security strategy at an AmLaw 100 global law firm. He's the chief security officer at Sheppard Mullin. Quincey Collins, welcome to the show.
Lou, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Yeah, well, it's always a great pleasure to speak to you. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Quincy, you've had a great storied career. What's the biggest secret to your success throughout your career in security?
Secret to success. I mean, that presumes I'm always successful, but I think moving past the small things and looking, in a strategic fashion, for your life, for your career, for your team, and really just trying to bring value in all of the small and big interactions that I have with people has really helped me, one, connect with people, two, have a good time, and three, maybe kind of avoid the pitfalls that one might have when dealing with technology, dealing with people, dealing with different situations. It's tough out there, and if you're unprepared, the world is not kind.
That's for sure, and I think that's good advice. But you've also navigated different environments. When you're talking about living in Europe, working for government, and then coming over to the commercial side. Like, how did those transitions? Do you find like a through line? Does that advice kind of sit with everywhere you go, or are there different ways that you operate depending on, which environment you're in?
So I was 17, fresh out of high school when I joined the Air Force. Um, I actually had to have my mother sign for me because I was a minor at the time, which maybe was kind of a running joke. I spent my 18th birthday in basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And then I moved on to Ramstein Air Force Base after finishing tech school. I think, one of the really great things that I've been able to experience in my career is the many mentors that I had in Air Force personnel and NATO personnel. One of my mentors was actually a Italian warrant officer named Francesco, and I really owe him a lot as he, kind of guided me during that time in my life professionally, and I, appreciate it to this day. So I had a number of different mentors, both American and international, and it was kind of I would say, a special experience for me just to have all of those different opinions, different ways of doing things, and just understanding that there's more than one way to solve a problem, and then moving over to the to contractor consulting in the Department of Defense after I left the military. That's kind of when the parachute was taken off. It's just you, and you've got to provide for your family. You've got to do the best job that you can, And I learned so much there as well with, folks with 20, 30, and more years of experience in government service, and international service as well. It was just wonderful to get to know everyone and learn from them.
Yeah, so mentors are the key as well, and being open to that, being someone that can be mentored, in that ripe young age, I think you were ready for that as well. So that's good advice. You're rare on the podcast because this is a podcast that's normally we have these trusted advisors come in and discuss what it's like to sell and how they sell cybersecurity and stuff. And you're on the other side of that. You're on the other side of the desk, and you're definitely a target for everyone because they want to speak to you. I mean, and we'll talk about a little bit about that, but you know essentially, can you give anyone advice that is a salesperson that's listening on, what works for you? Like what makes what gets your attention when someone's kind of coming to you for cold outreach, or do you ignore all cold outreach?
I think first off, I'd like to say that I have a high degree of respect for all of the salespeople, all of the consultants, and all of the engineers that are behind these wonderful products that are out there today. Because CISOs, chief privacy officers, information technology folks, CIOs, they wouldn't be able to do what they do without these products. And the salespeople that are out there are a valuable piece of that whole ecosystem, right? They're introducing us to exactly what we need when we need it, and hopefully providing value throughout those interactions. So, with that said, let's start with the cold outreach. Sometimes phone numbers get out there, and I made this mistake early in my career and putting my phone number in the contact form, because I was like, well, what if such and such organization needs to contact me? But what ended up happening was I had a flood of calls coming in, and I sometimes would have 5 or 6 calls a day. I think it's important though to recognize that everyone has a job, and I've noticed on some LinkedIn posts that some individuals in high profile positions will make this big post about how they hate business development people calling them and all of that. But everyone has a role to play in this, including the CISOs, including the CIOs, right? So we're on the receiving end of these calls. And, my approach is that, if someone does actually have my phone number, I'll go ahead and take the call. I'll listen to their 30-second, typically it's about a 30-second pitch. And, you definitely should be cordial. Obviously, you're not going to commit to anything on that particular call, but, recognizing the fact that everyone has a job to do, and everyone deserves the requisite amount of respect with what it is that they're doing, no matter if they're a first year business development person or a seasoned chief revenue officer giving you a call to essentially give you an idea of what exactly they want to share with you.
Yeah, so what works though, man? And it's great. I mean, first, thank you. Not that I'm thankfully not, a full-time salesperson, but I am as the CEO, but not really. I haven't done the hard yards that a lot of these business development people have, and the outreach, cold outreach. That's tough. So it's nice to hear, someone who's on the receiving side not be completely mean to those people. But obviously, there are things that might work or things that might not work. So what works? What when they are going to coming to you, let's say it's a call. They get past the goalie somehow. What are you? What keeps you on the phone, or what gets you to respond to the email?
I do extensive research on the market to understand who the players are and who fits the use cases that I'm looking to fit. And I don't think that I've ever purchased technology or services from a cold call. It's just it's never happened to my recollection. Now I have purchased technology after attending a CISO gathering, and some of my peers were talking about X technology or X vendor and how they're so great, right? And then that spurs me to look into them, right? So that means that they have to have a good enough web presence so that I can, and hopefully they don't have all of their documentation behind a paywall with your
Right,
email and your phone
exactly.
number. And
Yep.
like, please just give us the documentation that we're looking to have so that we can understand your tech. But typically, that's how I might find something, either a recommendation or just my searching or me working through my value added resellers to give me an idea of what's happening in the market. There are a number of different organizations that do benchmarking that can help as well. But you know, I think CISOs and CIOs know who the players are in the market. I think what's valuable is not dropping the ball from a personality standpoint, being too pushy. Um, and really just focusing on providing value. It might not be a fit right now, but maybe in 6 months or in a year. So it's all about relationships and building, a long-term relationship rather than a short-term transactional relationship. What I found is that, you know, the the folks who I do business with over and over again, they're focused on the long term. If I have a bad interaction, which is very, very rare, but if I have an interaction that I'm, not really pleased with, typically the next cycle, and let's say I did purchase the next cycle, I'm probably making a change, whether it's the account manager or the technology. So those two kind of things are hand in hand because culture is culture at an organization is paramount, and that will show, I think, in the bottom line.
Big time. So it's interesting. What I'm hearing you say is actually where the target podcast audience resides, which is in this trusted advisor community. And the trusted advisors are kind of like bars, but this is a different model. And I'm not sure that you're totally familiar with it. Have you ever used one of these trusted advisors?
I have not.
Okay. So this is it, basically the model is that these are people that will kind of guide you when you say, "Hey, listen, I need." Often they were bandwidth or unified voice or unified communications, customer experience, things like that. That they might need to outsource that, but they don't know the vendor. Like you don't know the vendors, and you don't have time to run your own RFP, let's say, or so you need some help. That's where this trusted advisor community comes in. And so it's very similar to what you're talking about when you reach out to your trusted, partners or trusted vendors or trusted bars. Same thing. So they will run the whole process for you and they'll bring you three quotes. And typically in those three quotes, you're going to find one, if not two, of the vendors that you like. And the good trusted advisors, they know your business, they get to know you really well, they get to know your style, they get to know, what the best fit is for what you're trying to accomplish. And so that those are the vendors that they recommend because they might have hundreds or thousands of vendors for different things. In security, we're part of this as one of the vendors or suppliers, as we're called too. And in that, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, um, you know, we this is what we do when something comes and obviously we're doing security programs. We do projects like pen tests and stuff like that. But ultimately we are really mostly about security programs and doing it on a recurring basis. So, when something comes along that's like a managed detection and response, we pass that along. We say, yeah, that's not our fit. And there's a ton of vendors that do that, some really good ones in that channel. But when they need someone to do the people and process part, not just the technology, that's when they reach out to us. And so, you would say, hey, I need someone to come in and run GRC for me, governance, risk, and compliance, for those that don't know what that acronym means that are listening. And so, for the GRC program, you might just say, hey, I don't want to hire someone for this. I want to do that. I need somebody that does that, they would bring us in and, one or two other firms, and we would all bid, and they don't care. It's kind of like a house broker, right? Like, or someone looking for apartments or homes. It's like, hey, I'm going to get you all the people that fit your criteria, but it's up to you, the buyer or the seller in that circumstance, who you want to take. So that's what this channel is about. And now that you know that, I don't know. I guess they'll have to. They're definitely going to try to come at you now that you're on this. But you might find some value in that. But it is interesting to know, like, what exactly with these trusted partners that you've worked with in the past, what do you find to be, the best, the ones that you have the best relationships with, or like, what are the qualities of those?
You know, it's once you get to the point where there's a good amount of trust, and that took years to build, and it started small and it grew, right? So, the more points of contact that you have, from a contracting perspective, is very, very helpful. Um, Honestly, I can't put my finger on it. Obviously, well, they're timely. They have a great engineering team behind them. They can actually bring solutions that I may have seen before, but they rack and stack and actually compare the functionality, and then they, obviously can help on price as well. And that's just the first part, right? Because then there's the contracting portion behind that, where you got to get past legal, you got to get past risk, procurement, all of that, right? It's vendor management 101. And unfortunately or fortunately, I'm the guy that owns the policy. So if it takes me wrong, it's my fault, right?
Well, depends. I mean, you get a lot of hands in that pie, right? So, you ultimately have the decision process, but I think there's probably other steps there that you're not, doing on a day to day basis. So,
Let me just kind of uh, go a little bit deeper in what makes a great vendor. I think trust is number one. They have the client has to trust you. Two, you have to bring value, whatever that value is that the client is looking for. I think you have to find it. Number three, and this is maybe kind of off the wall, you've got to have that thing about you, or that thing about your company, the thing about your product that, wow, this is impressive. Let me look into it more. Let me hang out with this person a little bit. Let me say yes to that lunch meeting. Right? Because it's difficult to get senior leaders out to lunch, just because the schedules are so busy and so condensed. And if I've found that if I like the person on the other side of the table, it's much easier for me to do business with them, but it's not necessarily a prerequisite. I have a vendor who I've been doing business with for a technology vendor, that I've been doing business with for the last 3 years. And I only met my account manager last week. It just worked. The technology was great. And there was an opportunity to meet, and we met, and that strengthened the relationship. So trust, bringing value, and being likable. If you ask 10 top tier salespeople, and this is me kind of guessing here, but if you ask the top 10 salespeople, hey, what makes you great? You're going to have all kinds of different answers, right? So I think you have to lean into who you are, and then also lean into the needs of the customer. Figure that out. Do a little bit of research, but don't stalk anybody. But what you want to do is just get familiar and understand that it's going to take time. Nothing is worse than from a salesperson perspective, sending a LinkedIn request, and then the person on the other end accepts it, and then all of a sudden you get a 1,000-page essay about their value proposition
yeah.
of their tool. that makes it very difficult for me to understand if this is a genuine interaction or if it isn't.
Right. Yeah, that's like, asking for the first date and then, trying to get to the altar, and before even having that first date. So, I think that's definitely, a big mistake. We've spoken a lot on the podcast about, transactional sellers versus, more of solution selling. And, what I'm hearing from you is, I think it's codified in the phrase people buy from people, they don't buy from companies or vendors, right? So you want someone that's genuine. They have to bring their genuine self. And if they're a genuinely good person that's selling a good product or service, then there's a connection there. But I want to hear more about the frustration. Like, what are some of the worst stories you have about kind of vendor outreach? More, obviously there's the annoying bots and stuff like that. But do you have any like a good, well, when I say good, interesting, bad experiences or just any frustration with the kind of salesperson vendor outreach?
Yes. So, um, I'm just trying to pick on which one. Uh, I had a account manager, for, technology that didn't seem to care about anything that I said, on the phone or during video teleconferences, and it shows. Now, you don't have to go along with everything that I say if I'm saying something that's incorrect, but we've all heard the saying that the customer is always right, and in this case, I was the customer, and I didn't feel like I was being heard. So those types of interactions, especially if somebody shows that they really don't care about what you're saying, makes it very difficult for me as a customer, to be on the other end, thinking, that I might have an ally in this person, right? Who knows what happens when they have to go, speak to their VP of sales to, work on price or what have you. But I ended up requesting that this person be removed, from my account. Um, the person was removed, and then things went better. Who knows if, where we landed, with regard to the solution, the price, the terms, and all of that would have been the same or different, but at least I felt better about the interaction. Now, my feelings, don't necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things, but if I can have a good interaction, I would rather have that than a bad interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. And the aggression part too. Have you ever had like a vendor try to jump over your head and I don't know, go right to the CEO or do some kind of weird stuff where they get a no from you and then they try to get a yes from someone else?
You know, it is very rare, but it does happen. But I think it's deeply rooted in, the sales cycle that some, organizations have. It might be near quarter end, and this person is trying to, grab at straws and doing everything and every single thing that they can do to get that one last sale that might keep them at the company. Um, you know, the times that I see, sales folks, reach out in a very aggressive manner, and then at the very end, if you haven't responded to them, they'll type, "This is the final email that I'm sending you." I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do with that?" And additionally, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's actually peel that back. With the integration of AI in the sales, arena, these emails that are going out to me, are take no time from a human to get sent into my inbox. However, me as a human, I take 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds just to see exactly what's happening, as long as it's not a phishing email. Um, Right? But, I take my time as a human to look at that, and there's kind of an imbalance, right? So, right now with AI and sales, and marketing, you don't know who's who, and you don't know if it's a genuine interaction or not. And sometimes it's difficult for me to say, oh, okay, I'm either going to respond to this or I'm not. I do read my emails, but I think since AI has kind of taken over, let's say, and I can a lot of times I can tell these,
Oh, it's obvious. It's like, "Hey, I see that
yeah,
you did this and that, and hey, you're doing this."
yeah.
Yeah.
The funniest ones are the ones that are formatted incorrectly, like in brackets, customer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, those are the ones that are just like some marketing person or salesperson is getting their butt chewed for that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, AI, it's funny with the bots and many people are saying the internet's dead now because of all the, which is we obviously know is not true, but there's definitely a lot of garbage out there, and that's low effort. How about like let's talk post sale. You've got the vendors signed up, they're doing the work, and then inevitably something goes wrong because there's no we don't live in a perfect world. What do you think? Like, how do you prefer vendors to handle mistakes, and how do you deal with kind of the projects? Exceptions and stuff like that. We hate that. That's why we do the flat rate model because we're like, we're just gonna get the work done. So, what's been your experience with that?
Well, there are two camps, and I find that medium-sized companies do better, or boutique outfits will do better at recovering from issues and mistakes that are inevitably made. I mean, if you're dealing with technology or dealing with security, something's going to go sideways, and it really just matters how you deal with it. So I don't, kind of raise my eyebrows at problems that occur with vendors unless it's something, unless it's an actual problem. But I think the the bad part about this is, when a vendor just says, or your salesperson will just kick it over to support, and then you maybe never hear from them again. They don't check in on you. They don't try to escalate on your behalf. They don't use back channels. The good service that I've received whenever a problem has occurred is, somebody gives me a call. It gives me the understanding that somebody has the ball on the other side. It's being, pushed through, even if it takes a little while to complete or resolve or what have you. At least I know it's being handled, and I don't have to go every 4 hours, 6 hours, or whatever, check in, or my director of information security has to check in or something like that. It's, good customer service is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, communications. Keep everyone informed. Meet the deadlines that you put for yourself. Make the deadlines realistic. And if they slip, again, go back to step one, communication. So I think that makes a lot of sense. What about let's talk about we haven't mentioned AI yet, so we got to mention AI. We did talk about AI sending you emails, but like, how is AI affecting, or how do you see AI affecting security in general?
I think AI is already here. It's in endpoint. It's being utilized in firewall technology. It's being utilized in network access control solutions and SOAR technologies. It's being used across the board already. I think in the future, though, we're going to see agentic AI take over, where they can really handle a lot of the first tier analyst type things. So, when you look at a SOAR technology, security, automation, orchestration, and response technology, that is almost automating things, but there's still a lot of human interaction that has to happen. Additionally, there's a lot of Python programming that needs to occur to make sure that everything is configured appropriately. But I think on the agentic AI side, you're going to see the wide use of large language models and APIs in order to perform specific actions, whether it's triage, whether it's blocking something, whether it's um, pulling together a number of different tools to provide the desired outcome from a security perspective. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So I feel like agentic AI is going to be like SOAR 2.0. I know that there are a number of providers out there that are working on this and have early stage agentic AI, but I think in the next 18 months we're going to see that kind of explode in a good way.
Yeah, yeah, and what are your thoughts on these new vendors that don't necessarily have security teams that are pumping out, they're basically taking your data, you know that they've got, they might have 100 mil in the bank because they just got funded, but they're not really there yet from a security program perspective. Do you ignore those vendors completely, or is there some way to kind of mitigate or transfer that risk?
I think you gotta take a look at vendors one by one. If you look at maybe some of the largest vendors that exist today, and most established ones, they've gone through breaches, big breaches that are publicized. The software that they write sometimes has, or oftentimes, you could probably look at it on a calendar on whichever day of the week, but you're going to see that these vendors are writing code that uh, is exploitable. So these are the really big vendors. Now the small vendors, they're kind of, let's say, at a disadvantage when looking at seasoned organizations or big organizations that are mature in their vendor management process. But it's not impossible to get in. I think what you have to do as a vendor is make a good, honest effort at information security, privacy, compliance best practices, and be able to demonstrate that, right? So, if you have an ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, a a SIG, whatever it is, you've got to be able to speak to that. You've got to have a security team. And the wrong time to get a security team is after you've had a breach, right? Because um, a lot of incident response happens before the incident, right? So we've got to be preventative. And what that looks like is having a fully built out security team, fully built out security program. Get privacy handled. Get a great attorney, wink, and to make sure that you have your bases covered. Because if you're able to demonstrate that you've done your due diligence, you've made your security program and your protections to protect your customer data, your client data, and your company data. More often than not, we'll say, that looks fine. And you've just got to put your best foot forward. What that looks like is different for every company. But if the board has, decided that cyber is an important thing, they will have that full security team built out early on in the process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's huge. The prep phase for preparation for incident response. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening. I think with the AI, as a force multiplier for security, defense, offense. On the other hand, the bad guys are getting it and they're using it to great advantage, unfortunately. But it's going to be a cat and mouse game, just like security's been a cat and mouse game since its inception. So yeah, it's interesting to see the trends. What excites you about kind of the future, the next 5 years in tech, not just security, but kind of any technology from a business or even personal standpoint?
I think AI technology that works and fits the use case and is I would say narrow AI instead of general AI, narrow AI for security implementations is what really truly excites me. As I was talking about agentic AI previously, that's just going to be huge. And we'll see what happens there. I think it's going to take over SIM as well, and really reduce the amount of time that it takes for an analyst to understand, what's happening and write after action reports, things like that. what excites me moving forward, on a personal perspective, travel, going to different countries. As I was saying before, I was working for NATO in Italy. I was working for the United States Air Force in Germany and in England. Spent some time traveling around all over Europe, hit Sweden, hit Belgium, hit all kinds of places. And, I'm looking forward to traveling a little bit in the next year or two. And then aside from that, would love to hit the racetrack,
Mhm.
uh, hit Willow Springs. I heard they just paved the track again, and they're now under new ownership. So I'm excited to take the race car over there.
Yeah, I mean, let's pivot to personal now. Yeah, you are a renaissance man. You just are, whatever you choose to do, you're really, really good at it. And one of the things that you've chosen to do is you're a car guy, and you have a race car. Is that what I understand?
Oh yeah, so it's a 2005 BMW M3, and it's fully track prepped. So it's got a 6-point cage. It's got no interior aside from a race seat and the dash, which has been hollowed out. And it is just a blast to drive around the track. It sounds like a race car, essentially. And it was a pandemic project. So during the pandemic, I actually purchased the vehicle and then did a good amount of the work myself. And then I sent it out to get the cage built from a guy in NorCal. And yeah, so it's a pretty fast vehicle. It's pretty light too. I replaced a number of different parts, a lot of carbon fiber. But yeah, I've been into cars since I was a teenager or even before. Driving around. My first car was Toyota Tercel. Um, I I blew up the engine. Actually, my mom was not happy about it. But that's a story for another day. Sorry, mom.
Yeah, well, with 2 teenagers, I can tell you having some of those experiences myself with the cars. It happens to all of us, but maybe the blowing up of the engine made you wanna appreciate a little bit better how the car operates, and here we are, now you've built your own car and you're racing it. That's pretty cool.
So much fun.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's really that's great that you're gonna get that out too. What other, well, actually, but before that, what you took a journey, right? Like, you were talking about NATO, you were talking about, the Air Force and then being a contractor. You speak a couple languages, which goes with the Renaissance man, moniker.
You're too kind.
It's true, though. This is all true, all facts. So, how did you get to doing, what you were doing, with the Air Force, and you were working in tech a bit, what got you here?
When I was 17, I spent most of my time on a computer, as most 17-year-olds in 1999 do or did. Now it's mobile phones, and what I knew at that point in time is that I just wanted to get into computers, right? And I was like, oh, this is going to be a great industry. I'm on a computer all day anyway, so I might as well work in the industry. My mom, she took me to the Air Force recruiter, and we had a family friend who was actually in the Air Force who actually said, yeah, getting into the computer operations. He was a bit more formal. He was like, getting into the computer operations field is going to be good for you, son. So I ended up signing up, and the rest is kind of history. My path to where I'm at today is essentially just doing the best that I could exactly where I was. So I went to college when I was in the military. Got my master's, got my bachelor's in cybersecurity, and then my master's in information technology after I was out. So luckily, the GI Bill the post 9/11 GI Bill really supported me and allowed me to do that, right? Because if it weren't for that, I don't know if I would have gone as far as I would have educationally. And then from a certification standpoint, I saw your CISSP book in the background, and I spent many a nights studying. I think it took me back in I think 2013. It was 6 months of straight study, and this was after I had my bachelor's in cybersecurity. So it was like, it was a lot of information. It's a mile wide and an inch
Oh,
deep,
yeah.
right? And I think, as an executive, a security executive, you have to, know a little bit about everything, in order to, decide if you need to dig further or your team needs to dig further. And, it's all about asking the right questions. So, when I transitioned from the public sector to where I'm at today, it's you know it's definitely more linear, the reporting structure in a in the government, right? Kind of, there you do as you're told. But here, there's a lot of negotiation that has to happen. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of there's a lot more paperwork, absolutely. And I think uh, the private sector, it's important to be, I think, more meticulous, because you can kind of do more. You can go anywhere, and that in of itself, pro- provides a bit of risk. So I'm in the risk reduction business.
Yeah, you mean by having too much choice?
Yeah, you can pick a vendor that's bad if you want to. If you're in the government, you can select from the pre-approved ones. Now your result isn't always going to be great, but at least they're pre-vetted. When you're in the private sector, you're the one doing the vetting. So it's really about, what matters to your business, and what is your risk appetite.
Right.
So, to just kind of put a bow on it, what got me here today, um, I think a series of fortunate events. Looking back, I've had as I was saying before, a lot of great mentors, a lot of great friends, and a lot of great managers, and people who have helped me along the way. No one does anything by themselves. There's always a group of people behind them that kind of push them in a certain direction. I owe a lot to my parents, to my family, for setting me up for, I think, success. And it's just making sure that you don't drop the ball, during your ascent. Let's say.
Yeah. Well, if there's anyone that I know that's not gonna drop the ball, it's you, Quincy. Because even if you bobble it a bit, yeah, you're a true professional, and that's what I've always liked about, working with you. And,
Likewise.
yeah, yeah. So, where can people connect with you?
People can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just look up Quincey Collins on LinkedIn, Guincey. And yeah, would love to connect with people. Looking for genuine connections, genuine professional connections, and looking forward to meeting up again. Maybe you and I can have another podcast
Oh,
sometime.
yeah.
It's an amazing chat, amazing discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, Quincy Collins, it has been really great to hear about your journey, hear about, your secret, and we're gonna say really mentors and being genuine, yourself, and expecting that from other people. That's really important. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Lou. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone else that's out there listening and or watching. If you learned something today, had a good experience, please tell someone about this podcast. Thanks again, Quincy, and this has been another exciting episode of Channel Security Secrets. See you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Channel Security Secrets. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes, guest info, and more episodes, visit us at channelsecurity.secrets.com. Channel Security Secrets is sponsored by Cyber Defense Group. When it comes to protecting your business, don't settle for reactive. Partner with experts who build resilience from the ground up.